I've been a fan of breath since I was a little kid. Just give you a little background of who I am. So, in the title of my practice, this little session is the power of breath. So, in elementary school, I was doing 1 minute inhales and exhales because I was bored in class and they had that big tick tock clock in the front of the classroom. And you could hear it when it got really quiet. And I started timing my inhales to see how long I could inhale for. And over the school year, I got up to a minute. And then I thought, well, you should balance that out with the exhale. And I did the same thing with the exhale. I had no idea what I was doing. I was a kid. But some of these things, I have to say, came with me into this world with, to know things about the breath. Past lives, if you want to buy into that, who knows? Some gifts came along with me. So that's some of the stuff I want to share. And one of the things that came to me during a breath session a while ago, I was sitting by a creek, breathing some of the best air, and that is that negative ions, if you can get by a body of water, that is some good air to breathe and do your breath work sessions with, or some conscious breathing with a body of water or moving water. And these are the words that came through at the time. The breath is a vital force that sustains all life as we know it now. With that in mind, being able to direct this force is a key to unlocking our full potential. You think about that, being able to unlock our full potential through directing our breath. And how do we do that? How do we apply that? There's so many variations of breath work, and which ones will help us do that? And what I've discovered for myself over the years is my ego, quote unquote, James, has learned how to defend his self, his small self, and keep it intact, and learned how to defend himself against breath work. And that's where I started exploring pranayamas, and I dedicated time to each of the pranayamas. I gave everything a minimum of 45 minutes. I believe some of the breathing you could get into a certain space within 20 minutes, but a good 45 minutes is where the true breath work starts, the magic starts to happen in my world. So if you're out there and you're dabbling, because I hear a lot of people these days say, I teach breath work. And I'm like, oh, what kind of breath work? Oh, I teach in my yoga class. And I'm like, oh, at the beginning or the end? And they're like, oh, at the end, I give a couple minutes. And I'm like, okay. And I have to smile because the word's getting out there. So now it's become a big umbrella word for breath work. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of things today. There's another one that I wanted to share, and we're going to get into, oh, I wanted to tip my hat to Leonard Orr. Let's just do that real quick. So Leonard Orr. So maybe we could all just do 4 short breaths and 1 long. He always liked to do these in his talks. So it is you could sniff, sniff, sniff 4 times. 1 long exhale is 4. So those are the breaths with Leonard Orr. And you do 4 rounds of that. And that gives you a nice little buzz at the end. He goes, did you get a little high? I always like when he say that. Did you get a little high? So hats off to Leonard Orr, because he had a big effect on a lot of different styles of breath work. And I appreciate what he did for this world I happen to live in. And I honestly try and step away from it a lot. And it always reels me back in. So Rabia, here we are again. One of the other things I'd like to read is I believe it's a quote from Marianne Williamson, and it's about our deepest fear. And it's not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Our deepest fear is to act on this knowledge. And that's what breathwork does for me, is empowers myself and others to act on what we get inspired once we're breathing and going into these deep states of breathwork. And I'll share some of my experiences and what I've done with the power of breath. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. It is our love, not our hate, that frightens us most. It is being ourself, not conforming, that frightens us most. Our playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. And that is a beautiful line right there. It is not in just some of us, it's in every one of us. As we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I really appreciate that. And we light up and love the world together, being the unique person we came here to be, or the unique people we came here to be. And that is, I find that this quoting that and reading that is part of where I've been, that I've played small and I reel back so other people will be more comfortable when I'm around. And I've noticed these things about myself, and I want to let this light all the way through. And there is a light in each and every one of us. So I'd like to share another story, if you don't mind. Because when I came across the word breath work, it was 1992. And I went to a weekend workshop titled Ecstasy Breathing. And in ecstasy breathing, we started on Friday night. We went to Saturday and and uh and Sunday. And we ended up, I got home 3 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And what happened to me, how many of you, I see a lot of muted people and no faces, but I'm sure if you've done breath work, you've gone into tetany at least once. So cramping of hands, whatever it may be. I was in a full body tetany position. I don't even know how to describe it, but my body was locked up. My hands were cramped, my arms were crossed, my legs were crossed, my jaw was locked, but I could still breathe. And I felt something. There is a feeling, an intuition to keep going. Don't give in to the pain. Don't give in to the fear, which I didn't feel any fear, but there was a lot of pain. And I continued to breathe through this pain. We came to a peak. We all held our breath at the same time. The music stopped and we went into silence. And I'm still in a cramp. I took 3 more breaths in the silence. Big breaths, big, powerful breaths. And then I held my breath one more time. My life changed. There's my life up till 1992 in that moment. There's my life after, where I started trying to bring this fabulous practice, breath work, out to the world. That's why I've written books and give talks and still apparently continuing to teach. So in that, I don't know exactly what happened, but all I saw was this beautiful, pure white light. And I went from this extreme pain into pure bliss. I popped open like a cross, like a Leonardo da Vinci pose. I was wide open, legs popped open, my arms are out to the sides, and I'm laying there. I'm holding on to a sitter's ankle, and she said I lit her up with the energy that was running through my body. And I was like, wow. So I'm sharing this because I believe all this is within all of us, and we've been encased in beliefs and culture and where we live and all that. And I cracked that casing and I allowed another piece of myself through. Call that whatever you want, but I changed. The teacher, the facilitator of that particular class would not look me in the eye afterwards. He didn't have the answers I was looking for at that point. So I was like, I had to keep searching. I kept breathing. I kept going in and meditating and doing my thing. When I came home, even my kids looked at me like I was somebody else. But my 1-year-old daughter kept holding her arms up like, Daddy, I want to hug you. But she couldn't say it, but I could feel it. So I picked her up and she pushed me away. And I was like, okay. And I put her back down, talking to my other kids. They're looking at me like I have 3 heads or something, because I changed that much. And I was so happy. And it was morning. And I'm not normally happy in the morning because I got to go to work. And they're like doing it. And I felt my 1-year-old, and I'm like, oh. And I squatted down to her level, knee level, bent my knees, squatted all the way down, and tried to hug her. And she pushed me away again. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out because I still feel you. I can feel this. And then I'm like, I'm really slow sometimes. Like, click. And she wanted to hug me as an equal. And I turned to face her. She wrapped her little arms around my legs, right at behind my knees, and she laid her little side of her head into my thighs, and she squeezed me. In our minds, telepathically, I heard the words, I know where you're at because I'm there too. That's a powerful experience. It shifted everything about me. Some people at work didn't even recognize me when I showed back up on the job site. And a quote, where's that asshole that used to work with you guys? And I'm like, hi. And the guy literally walked backwards out of the room going, he didn't even recognize me. That's how much I changed. And in deep in spirituality, they call this transfiguration. There's transformation, there's transfiguration where you physically change. There's some science about people that have multiple personalities. They have different blood types. Each personality has their own blood type. We could change our personality that much and go that deep. That's how powerful this breathwork practice is. It's amazing. It's an amazing, amazing practice. And sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just have to continue to share what I know. And and I I love feedback from an audience, so this online stuff's kind of fun. So I'm just gonna keep talking here. There's one more story I'd like to share about the power of breath, because we all have breath work in our lives for different reasons. It came into our life, you know, for this umbrella of reasons, this whole spectrum of reasons. Mine was for enlightenment, for my spiritual pursuit. See, I want to truly understand myself, but I want to know truth. What is truth? So that's kind of fun. But I believe we can heal our bodies. And I've been walking my talk and doing my best to walk my talk for a long time and really back up my words through experience. So I was on a job site and I drug a 2-inch piece of pipe down the front of my face driving ground rods. It broke. And anyhow, I smashed my face and knocked this tooth into the back of my head, my mouth. And in that moment, I was just like, whoa, what just happened? You know, the cartoon, I don't know if you've seen it, with the little rabbit. And it's like, I said birds, not stars or whatever it was, because there's tweeting birds around my head. I was like, wow. And the tooth was pointing back, and I'm like, hold on, it's just totally wrong. I told my helper, grab the tools, meet me in the van. I went to the van, and I started doing the microcosmic orbit. So if you know the microcosmic orbit, it's from the roof of your mouth around the inside of your skull down to your pelvic floor. In the middle of your pelvic floor is the perineum between your sexual organ and your anus. So if you don't know these things, I'm just going to say it all out loud. And then back up the front of your body to the tip of your tongue. So if you say the word let, and it puts the tongue on the roof of your mouth, that's the beginning and the end of this microcosmic orbit. There's 2 meridians, the governing meridian down the back and the conceptual functional meridian up the front. You can run this energy both ways. I breathe in around the skull and down my back and up the front. That's how I do it for myself. It's my foundation breath in my practice. I pretty much do it every night before I go to sleep, and I try and do it when I wake up. It's kind of how I get going and how I close out my day. So I started doing this breath, and I started imagining moving this tooth back into place. And it felt like it was stuck, and I wasn't sure. So we went to my dentist, and it sat with the dentist chair. And she's like, oh, we're going to shoot you with Novocaine and we're going to pop your tooth back in place. And I reached in, I said, oh, like this, and gave it a little extra force this time because I've been doing breathing, I've been relaxing and calm my body down. I'm in a pretty good altered state from my breath work. And you hear a little pow, and they both jump back like, oh, no, Novocaine and the whole bit. And they said, well, you're going to lose a tooth. It's going to turn brown, then black, and we'll replace it, pull it, fill it pink goo, and put the little bridge behind it and put it back in for you. I said, no, I'm going to heal it. They said, you don't seem to understand. I said, you don't seem to understand. We went back and forth, and I finally left. Told the family. My family laughed at me. I was trying to share this with friends. They're all looking at me like, James, you're the weirdest person I've ever met. Can't believe that you believe this stuff. And I'm like, hey, this is me doing my best to walk my talk. So I'm breathing, and the first night, nothing happens. And I wake up, my tooth's already turning brown. And I go back to the dentist. And they said, we can't seem to get you in for 30 days, going through their schedule book, looking at me like, haha, we're going to make you be embarrassed for a little bit. And I'm like, really? All right, let's. I spun on my heels before I stood in that energy any longer. I said, then I got 30 days to heal myself. And I went to work. I visualized it. I pressed on it physically. So there's 2. I breathed and I, asked for help outside of myself. Whatever you want to call it. Always look up. That is an old program. I should be looking within. So I asked for help, and I continued doing this microcosmic orbit breath. And at the time, I wasn't teaching. I taught meditation and slip breath work in. Anyways, one night I'm breathing down my back, and I'm breathing up the front, and about halfway up my belly, the energy that I felt that I was following, the meridian lines that I was following my body, changed direction on its own without my intention. Started going a direction the other way. This is when I say we surrender, be the witness. I surrendered, became the witness, and just felt the energy go the other way. It came around to my head, and I heard a little tick as it came in, and I'm like, I'm healed. I felt fabulous. Woke up the next morning, and I'm like, looked at the mirror, and I'm like grinning. I sat at the breakfast table waiting for my kids and family to come out. Look what Daddy did, and they're all speechless, literally jaw. Nobody, they didn't ask how or what. Their mother looked at me like, oh, now he's never gonna shut up. And I'm gonna share this with the world. The power we all have. There's nothing special about me. We all have this potential to do this, to work with our breath, to work with our minds, to do these things. I went back to the dentist. They were quiet. They didn't know what to say. I said, done. They went back to white. It's this tooth right here. And then my friends all looked at me. Not one person asked me how. It was outside of their wheelhouse. They didn't know how to relate to being able to heal yourself, being able to do these things. And so part of what I believe I'm here to do is to introduce this and reintroduce this, because we're not being educated about our potential, the vital force, the breath itself, this invisible force in between this that sustains all of our lives, and that we could all tap into any place, anytime. So why don't we do a little bit of that right now? And we could take some breaths. You can take a nice circular breath. So if you breathe in through your nose and you breathe in around down your back, and you can feel, if you get real good, you can tighten the front of your body, you can let your back expand. It's really nice. And you can even feel your pelvic floor expand. Bring it up the front of your body, and then you just let out a natural exhale. And at the end of that exhale, squeeze out a little bit more air. Pretty simple. And you breathe back in, same thing, right? So that's the mechanics of the breath. That's the physical part. You can get something out of just doing that. Now let's put some intention behind it, like love for your body, love for your mind, love for your heart. All right. So breathe that in, the feeling of love. Now, so there's the mental thought of love, which has like that. But if you put some passion behind it, some real genuine love into the word love, and that feeling, you move the feeling, not just the thought, bring that around and bring it into your body and embody it. Embody love within yourself, your body, your mind, body, and heart. Okay, breathe that in. So breathe that in. So nice slow breath through your nose, around down the back and up the front of the body. This breath can take really long. This is my most detailed breath. And it breathes through every emotional pattern you have. And you just let it out naturally, and then repeat. Breathe it back in, bring in the feeling of love. Always recommend closing your eyes and allowing yourself to go inside. It's an inside experience, felt sense, as Michael Brown likes to say. So bring that in within you and really bring in the emotion. Try and find something that you truly love about your body, okay? Or truly love about your mind and how you think, or that love itself, your heart, okay? Really bring that in and bring it from the inside out and let it show. I mean, like, just let it shine through. All right. So these are the beginning and the foundations of this breath. So nice circular breath down. If nothing else, get that belly moving first, up through the heart and on up into the chest. Nice and full. All right. Then you're going to, after that, so those are those intentions, some love for yourself, your body, mind, and heart. Now, relax the jaw, very key area to relax, and let that jaw drop. And one way I like to do this is pretend like you're yawning and letting this go back here. So yawn, fake it till you make it. Open up real wide. Okay. And then you can clench your teeth, do the opposite, squeeze, and then let go again. Maybe stretch out real good, real wide, and then just let the jaw hang and breathe in and out of that. You don't have to make the sounds, but it's nice. This breath goes to your belly. Okay. Do that for a few rounds. Check and see if your body's relaxed, your mind's clear, you're at peace, your heart's starting to open. Let that happen. Now we're going to put some power in the breath, bring in a feeling of being alive. You ready for this one? Purse your lips and you pull this breath up into your chest and let that one go. There we go. I hear you. So the feeling of I'm alive. Really let go in that exhale. Just let go, surrender. Breathe that in. All right. Anybody getting dizzy? Feel a little bit? If you're driving right now, do not do this breath. Have some intention in there. I'm connected. No, all that. I'm focused. Really have your mind focused. You don't want it wandering off while you're empowering the breath because things can happen. Now, the totality of this breath is the totality is I love myself. The first 9 would be if you want to go into my breath. I'm a 13 breath person, and that's my practice. So take that in. I love myself. I love my life. I am loved. We all are. Feel that one? Now take a big breath and hold. And let it go. Feel that. That's my 13 breath practice in a nutshell. So it's a beautiful practice. You could do it in as little as that if you get to it, but there's a lot to learn as it's laid out in its totality and bringing in each section and working them when I teach. Anyway, so there you go. There's that. I want to, there's so many older breath workers I just admire and the different ways they teach. Stanislav Grof is one too. And I'm just a fan of what he's done for breath work. And like I said, Leonard Orr, Sandra Ray. So it's been a fabulous ride for me teaching breath work. And at this point, I would love to ask questions, haha, or answer questions if there was questions, but I don't know if we can do that, Rabia, or not. I don't know, but anyways, and then
It
we got
hasn't
a few
been part
minutes.
of the it hasn't been part of the flow, by all means, if anybody has a question and we open it up at the end, they'll raise their hand and go for it. So yeah, so any questions for James? I have a question for you in
Well,
that,
there you go.
yeah. Um, just clarify for me, when I've done the microcosmic orbit, I haven't thought about it from a skull perspective. I haven't gone into the innards here. I always think about it over the head and down the front and up the back and over the head and down the front. Share with me again your imaging and the path you're taking. And you might be finding something intricate by going into the skull, by going underneath here. I don't know about the perineum as well in the lower region, but I'd like to just go there for a second and hear from you. A little clarity there.
Sure. No, that's a great question because this is I call it if you can see me patting my head and rubbing my belly at the same time, it gets really tricky doing this part of the breath. Okay. So it takes practice and I've been doing it a long time. So I have naturally breathed in through my nose and I follow that around. So if you want to get super detailed, you're going through, there's 3 different sinus cavities. So you're going through this, you're following the midline of the brain and that, in between the hemispheres. So you're starting to balance everything out. And in the yoga world, it's like make thy eyes one, the drishti, and focus on the third eye. So, and you're looking up and half masked with the eyes and all this. But this is kind of where this breath is taking you through this channel and through the medulla oblongata in the back of the third eye that comes across. If you want to shortcut and do a little orbit in your head, there's that too. It gets a little tricky back here to find the spine and bring it down the spine. And this whole time, I'm holding the front of my body a little contracted. So like just my abs are contracted just slightly, chest, the intercostals, outercostals of the rib cage are contracted. And I'm trying to relax my back and the adrenal kidney area, and you can get expansion there. So if you were to do a cat cow in yoga, you can find your back and get people to breathe that way into their back in that position by reversing the breath of the traditional cat cow breathing. So you breathe in, you reverse the breaths. If you know that, you're a yogi, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If not, catch a workshop. Anyways, so you breathe in and I bring it up the front of the body. Now, the pelvic floor, if you go into to Ashtanga Yoga, Ashtang, Ashtanga Yoga, I'm saying that wrong, excuse me, but they talk about the pelvic floor in great detail, the three different parts, and to be able to separate them and have awareness of. So there's a lot of fun you can play with that area of the body. And but the Mula Bandha is contracting that. It's kind of like for the ladies doing a Kegel and for the men coughing. And so, you know what I'm talking about, bringing that all up and making it a little tight more. But we're going to go the other way and let it expand and open up. And there's so much emotion gets stored down there. It's a great place to really bring some awareness to and through to let it release and let it go, you know, process it and be move forward with your life. So there's a lot going on in that area. And the same thing, bringing it all the way up. As I said, you're breathing through every signature emotion with every breath by really completing this whole orbit as you let the belly relax and allow it to move up the front of the body through the heart and all that. And as I've watched people breathe, I see a lot of energy go around the heart. You could jump from the second chakra to the fourth or fifth or whatever. I mean, the fifth or sixth. So I might be getting too esoteric for some people, but these are things I've witnessed. Um, so I like to really focus on this breath and really lay out a nice foundation. And it's a great way to start a practice where you go deeper into the more powerful breaths. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Thank you for the details. That was great.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
so there you go. So there's that. And then, you know, moving the belly, I talk about three parts of the belly because the belly for me is like from the pubic bone to the sternum. So you get your low belly below the belt line, trying to find that and allow that part of your belly to drop, in the mid belly and all, bring it up all the way up to the sternum. So there's three parts of everything. And if you look at it, the thoracic cavity is above this heart center, not our heart pumping blood around our arteries, but our chakra, the anahata chakra is to me, it's the most protected area of the human being. And it has the most walls around it. And I just think it's a key area to really try and focus on pulling that breath through that area of the body and really making a smooth transition from the gut to the rib cage to the upper chest and making that nice and smooth. And if you feel ripples as you're breathing through there, it's allowing you to know something's going on a sensational level. Whether you don't need to understand it, but you try and really physically smooth that out. So there's some more to play with. There's another little bonus for you guys.
Greatness.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Anyhow, so that's my my little thing. I'm a few minutes early on that, but for the peace part, I have some ideas of breathing the Om. So I don't know if you're gonna do a separate recording, how are you gonna do this, but
No,
we're gonna we can move along on to that one too, but unless anybody else has a question.
no, go ahead and wrap 2 more minutes of experience. Jennifer did arrive, who wasn't here a half hour ago or whatnot, an hour ago. We're gonna see what we're
Okay.
gonna do with that in a second.
All
And
right.
so go ahead and wrap another minute or two of experience and close it out.
Well, the experience. Can I share one more story?
You may, yeah.
All right. So, because I love breath work and I love the experience and I love talking from personal experience. All right. So, I was in a workshop, one of those kinesiology workshops where you do the muscle testing to try and get around your conscious mind into the subconscious and all that. And I just blurted out, I'm done with working on mom and dad, blah, blah, blah. And this is back in the early 90s. It was a big thing back then, probably still is out there somewhere. And I'm like, I'm cutting out mental management. Let's go right to God. I got issues with God. So let's go right to the big guy and do this. So during the workshop, there's a little thing with the facilitator and blah blah blah. So I went off during the break, off into the back of the parking lot in my work truck at the time, and started breathing what is now known in my world as 13 breaths. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just knew what I felt. And I was breathing into this. This is like 94 or something like that, maybe three. But I was breathing away and all of a sudden, as I was trying to understand this God issue, I had like, what the why life, you know, just this every once in a while, and breathing away into it, and have this vision. There's this big ball of light, and all of a sudden I become aware, and I'm a little spark, a little sting, and I fly off this big ball of light. And I'm like, ooh, conscious of myself. Then I turn around and I see the big ball and I get this big lovey fuzzy feeling and I zip back into it. And, oh God, that feels good, right? This is a blissful moment. So then I like now I'm aware and I take off again and I go further. And I turn around, there's the light, and I zip back and get a big like lovey hug. And then I'm like, whoa, that was nice. And I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go a little further. And one time I went really far. And then I turn around and I couldn't see the big ball of light. And I'm flitting across this empty space, all these different directions. And then it went, aha, I forgot what I was. And the fact that I consciously left
Wow.
and I got a big answer. And it wasn't that God abandoned me. It's just I forgot that I came here to be myself as I read from this quote. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us the most. We've forgotten these. This is why I read this at the beginning, because it ties into this and to remind us that we came here to be a light. We came here to remember what we are. In my world, for me, that that's what we're doing. And that's why I share these stories like this as an inspiration. And I know there's other people trying to understand themselves and who and what they are. And what to me is a better question than who. Who am I is a name and some sort of social security number or whatever, some identity here. But what am I? I'm a human, uh, and we forget about our humanity and what it is to be human. We all want to be this spiritual something. As soon as the body dies, we're going to be spiritual just like that. How about how human can we be?
Mm.
How much love can we allow to just come through our pore? How much light can we allow to vibrate through this body? Because when we do, it is a fabulous place to be. A fabulous, and then that state, a state, but a state within my being, that state of peace, that state of power, but not power in a power has this little edginess to it. Power, it's been so abused by people in power. So anyways, but to be a real powerful person and to stand and be vulnerable at the same time, that's power. To be true and real and have humanity and compassion. All right. So on that note, maybe we can breathe into some peace. And I,
That
and
is,
so those, I got so many stories. That's just three.
it's all good, brother. It's all good. No, I want to share, I want to celebrate the humanness you just brought to it. That it isn't always about we're here to transcend. We're also here to be human and have the human experience in its fullness, but also to discover the treasures of having a human heart and a human nervous system. The
Yeah.
breath keeps providing those gifts, and that's what I keep hearing you traverse over is the different gifts and getting to utilize them. So